So today is Tuesday, July 18th. The NASDAQ and the S&P 500 are less than 5% off of all-time highs. Who would have thought that we would be saying that right now? Pretty insane start to 2023. All of those dip buyers out there, congratulations. The long term is looking gorgeous. And there's not too many levels on the upside before we're at that all-time high. There's a few levels left to be paying attention to on the NASDAQ, the S&P 500 futures, the SPY, and the QQQ. In today's video, I want to go ahead and do an entire analysis on the NASDAQ futures, the S&P 500 futures, throw in the SPY and QQQ so that you guys are aware of the remaining supply levels above before we hit that all-time high. The market has been on a tear. I'm not saying that we're going to reject any of these levels, but it is good to be aware of the potential levels to be focusing here in the next few weeks. We have some major tech earnings coming up. This could either be the catalyst to break us to new all-time highs or could be the catalyst where we see some of these supply rejections come in. Either way, let's do some analysis today. I hope you guys enjoy it. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, guys, so we are going to start on the NASDAQ futures. This is my favorite thing to chart. I think the NASDAQ has the cleanest price action after watching it for years. I really like the way the NASDAQ futures move. This gives me the best picture of the market as of late. As tech has been the heavy hitter, tech has been the strongest sector, the NASDAQ futures have really been the eye-opener and the clear levels to follow on the market, at least in my personal opinion. NASDAQ futures, we have to go all the way back to November, December of 2021, right? The high of the market. We have to be looking back at those levels to get an idea of what is to come here over the next few weeks. You guys can see since the beginning of this year, straight up pretty much, strong move on the NASDAQ. There are a few levels left. The first level that I want to point out is the 16,000 to 16,009 level on the NASDAQ futures. So what we have to do is we have to go to the daily chart because this is where these levels are most important, and we have to zoom into back here, right? This is back in 2021. This is back in November, December of 2021, back into January of 2022. So where do I get this 16,000 to 16,009 level? Well, the first thing I'm looking at is this area right here on the NASDAQ futures. It is this rejection here. This is on the 12th of January of 2022. The high of this candle was 16,009, right? 16,009 was the exact high of this candle right here. So if we are going to move into this level, right, this looks to be the first potential rejection point on the NASDAQ. It is also lining up with a very clear 16,000 psychological level. Now, it's not just one, right? I don't want to just see one area of rejections to make that a valid level. If we go back a little bit further, we can see this is back in November and back in late November of 2021. We can see that we had a little bit of a bounce off this level back in that area, and we had another bounce off this level back in November of 2021. So this zone between around 16,000 and 16,009 looks to be the next potential level of some potential struggle on the NASDAQ as we push into it, right? So we can see we had a bounce here, we had a bounce here, and we had a rejection here in the beginning of 2022, January of 2022. So that's my next level, right? And if we go into the current price action, we'll go into today's price action, we'll go to the 5-minute chart, and we can see that we can validate that level by looking at what the price action looked like on the NASDAQ futures intraday today. You can see we popped into that level. It was around that 16,009, 16,000, right? It went a little bit above it, but we can definitely see the wick rejections that were stepping in. And if we zoom in a little further, right, we can see that wick rejection here, end of day, around that 16,009 level. So that level has been validated, at least from today's price action. We can see that the 16,000 level is going to be slightly tough here on the NASDAQ futures. At least in the short term, that is a level to be paying attention to. So I'm going to go back to the daily chart, and I'm going to show you once again, right? We can zoom back into that 2021, 2022 action, and we can see that that was a level of reaction back in 2022 right here. So that is our first level, right? That is our first level to watch over the next few weeks. Above that, right? Above that, I do not think there is much here until all-time highs. This area is pretty much between 16,009, right? This area right here is what I'm looking at. I'm actually going to highlight it in yellow to sort of give you the idea of where I'm looking here. This yellow area, right, on your chart here does not have any key pivot points. It is simply just a channel, right? We channel from the lows to the highs, from the lows to the highs, from the lows to the highs to the lows, right? So there was no pivot points. There was no clear rejection points in this area. So if the NASDAQ is to break over this 16,009 level, I think you will see all-time highs, right? You will see this 16,400. That is really where the next rejection step in. We can see how heavy this was. 16,400, 16,400, 16,400, and 16,400. We can see the quadruple top that was formed there between November 2021 and where we eventually got the downside in January of 2022. So if we get above that 16,009, that 16,010 zone, if we turn that into a support, I think you have a pretty quick shot into that 16.4. And at that time, right, we can pretty much say that the NASDAQ is at all-time highs. So there is really one level, in my opinion, left in our way before the NASDAQ can really start to shoot towards that all-time high, and that is 16,000 to 16,009. So if we go into that 5-minute chart again, if we go to today's price action, right, what you're going to be looking for over the next few weeks or the next few days potentially, you are going to be looking for the NASDAQ to regain this high, start to turn it into support, and at that point, if we see something like that, you may get that continuation. However, right, in the short term, at least for now, we can only see what is happening as of now. As of now, we do see that reaction coming in at that level. Potentially a tough level to break through. This is going to come down, in my opinion, to what happens in the next few weeks on the major tech earnings. Netflix and Tesla report tomorrow. Next week and the following weeks, we're going to have all the big names reporting. Those reports, those catalysts will be the reason whether the NASDAQ, in my opinion, rejects 16,000 here or breaks above and pushes to that all-time high near that 16.4 supply. Now, if we do get some type of a reaction to the downside off this 16,000 level, the demand that you're going to be watching is at 15,400, 15,450. This would be a pullback back into the previous double top here and back into the potential 20 SMA, right? You guys know we've talked about that 20 SMA over the last few videos. And what you'll notice is right here, the 20 SMA held, and right here, the 20 SMA held, right? And you can see over the last few trading days, we have extended ourselves past that 20 SMA. So if you do see some type of a reaction to that 16,000 level over the next few days, you're going to be looking for the next buying opportunity back here at that 15,004, which would line up with this double top, and it would also most likely line up with the 20 SMA, as this 20 SMA will continue to increase over the next few trading days. All right, so now I want to get into the QQQ ETF, right? This is our tech ETF, and we want to look at what levels are left until the all-time highs here. Now, the first level is 390. 390 is your first level to be watching above. The reason for this, we have to go back into that 2021, 2022 action, as that is really all that's left until we get that all-time high. Now, we can see it's a very similar type of reaction at these levels. 390 is that same day. It's that January 12th, January 13th. That is where we saw that downside come in, and that is exactly at 390. So we are at 385 as of right now. Your next major rejection level is at 390 on the QQQ. You can also see we had 390 back here, right? Right there, 390. Right here, 390. And right here, 390 on the Qs. So if we get further upside on the Qs, 390 is going to be your next major level to watch. Same analysis here, right? Between 390 and 400 on the Qs, it really is just a channel, right? So if we go into this, let's make this yellow once again. We can sort of signify where we're looking at here. Between this 390 here and this 400 here, this is pretty much just sideways chop action. So if you get the Qs above 390, if you get a solid hold over that 390, that is really the last level, in my opinion, until you start to hit the 400 all-time highs on the QQQ, right? And I'm generalizing the all-time high because really the all-time high is 408, but that 400 would pretty much be all-time highs on the QQQ. And I think the last level in your way is 390. Until we see that, if we get a break over 390, I think you're going to see that 400. And the reason why I think you will get that quick move above 390 into 400 is because if we break 390, it is most likely off the back of some strong tech earnings this week, next week, maybe the week after, right? Tesla, Netflix, Apple, Amazon. If we're going to get that 390 break, it is most likely off the back of some strong tech earnings, and that will likely be a move that continues with a strong catalyst. So 390, that's your level to watch. If we get downside, this is a very clean level to be watching on the downside for a potential hold once again, and that is 380. Why 380? 380, if I go into that 2021, 2022 action again, you guys can see right here, 380 was a previous double bottom right here and right here, right? A previous double bottom on the QQQ. And we have been screaming this number like bloody murder all week here. And we can see, look at the perfect hold today at that 380 level on the Qs, right? The QQQ today dropped right into that 380 demand, held like a champ, and rallied the rest of the day. So as long as that QQQ is over that 380, this is in a very bullish scenario, right? We can see 380 here. We can see 380 here. Day over day, we held that 380 perfectly. And as long as you're above that, that is going to be your pullback level. To the upside, you're watching 390 on the Qs. That is going to be your major breakout, which will likely sort of catapult you towards that all-time high at 400. All right, so now I want to get into the S&P 500. This is the S&P 500 futures, and the next level that I am watching here, which is not too clean of a level, but it is definitely showing some signs, is this previous high right here. This is back from March 30th of 2022. The high of this consolidation, this little pivot point right here, is 4630. That is the exact high. 4630 is the exact high of this little pivot, this little rejection, whatever you want to call it, is right there at 4630. So that is going to be your exact level to be watching here on the upside. If we get a break over that 4630, that is also a break back above this support bounce, back above this right here, and we can see the 4630 was a level of reaction. So we know the next level to be watching above, the major breakout level above on the ES, is 4630. Now I have this zone mapped out from 4600 to 4630. I have a 30-point zone here. Now why do I have that zone? The reason is because I still believe that 4600 is going to be a psychological level here on the S&P 500 and should still be a level that is monitored. So anywhere between 4600 and 4630 should be an area that is monitored. If we are able to get above this high right here at 4630, this zone right here, that is what I think it will take to get that next leg higher into all-time highs around that 4750. Let's just call it 4800, right? 4750 is really the next level here until the actual all-time highs. But if we get to the 4750, I think most people are going to be calling that all-time highs. Actual all-time highs, 4800. After this 4630, you're looking at a triple top here at 4750, right? So 4750 triple top, 4630 pivot rejection here. If we go into the 5-minute chart today on the ES, you can see that as we approach that 4600, we started to get a little bit of weakness. So if we get upside tomorrow, I think you're going to have to be cautious in this entire 4600 to 4630 level. If we are able to get above 4630, that is where I think this upside continues. Now, if you do get some type of a rejection here in this 4600 to 4630 supply, your pullback level that you need to be watching for potential new long opportunities is 4500. You guys can see we had a previous double top at that 4500. We held the 20 SMA, we held the 20 SMA, right? And that 20 SMA hold, which we talked about in my video 2 weeks ago, caused a major upside move. And if we get a pullback off this 46, look for that 45 to turn into support. That 45 is both a retest of a double top high and will be where that 20 SMA is sort of grinding higher into. This is the same exact technical read as the NASDAQ futures here. This is a previous double top at 15,400, 20 SMA increasing. That is the really nice pullback level that I would be watching for new long opportunities if we see any type of reaction off this 4,600 to 4,630 supply. And the last one that I have for you today is the SPY ETF. I know a lot of people out there watch the SPY, and there are some very clear levels to be watching here on the SPY ETF. Your next level to be watching on the SPY ETF. Some probably think it's 460. I think it's a little bit lower at 458. Now, let me tell you why. 458, you guys can see, is a top right here, a top right here, and a very harsh rejection right here on on April 5th, right? So April 5th, you saw a nasty 458 supply rejection. You saw a nasty rejection here, February 10th, and you saw another one here on February 2nd. The highs of these candles, of this triple top, is 458. You could mark out 458 to 460. I think that is potentially what the right thing to do is there. You put a line at 460, you put a line at 458, and you just watch that whole 2-point zone, right? So anywhere between 458 and 460 is the next zone to be watching here on the SPY ETF. If you are to get above that 458 and 460, that is what I think could push you towards that high at that triple top here around that 470 level. If we go into the 5-minute or 15-minute chart, let's go 5-minute, we can see the SPY is a few points away from that 458. Right, so we're still a little bit off that 458. If we go to that daily chart again, if we got to go back, we got to keep going back further because that's really what we're looking at here. You're going back all the way to this 458, 460 level, which was a previous triple top right there back in February and April of last year, right? So that is your next zone to be watching on the SPY, 458, 460. If you get a pullback, right, again, look at how important this 450 breakout was for the SPY. 450, 450, 450. And now if we go into that 5-minute chart or 15-minute chart, right, look at that 450 hold today on the SPY ETF. An absolutely textbook 450 hold right there today. And that is exactly where you pushed off of. If we go to the daily chart, we can see that push off 450, which was, right, that push off 450, which was the previous highs right here, the previous lows right here, and the previous lows right here. So if you get that rejection off that 458, 460, your pullback level to be watching is that 450 level on SPY. So guys, that's all that I have for you in today's video. I just wanted to do a nice, fresh, clean analysis on all of the futures and market ETFs. Make sure you're aware of these levels, understand what's to be watching above, some big stuff coming out this week and next week. I wish all of you the best of luck in your trades. It should be a very interesting time. But once again, markets almost back at all-time highs. And you can't do anything but love the long-term portfolio, something that I continue to preach. I hope you guys caught some of that back last year, buying those quality names on the dip. I'm sure you're all very happy about that right now. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.